Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we have quorum present for today's meeting, I'd like to call our meeting of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee to order. Just as a reminder, all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during our committee meetings. We'll go through our roll call. If I can just ask everyone to acknowledge that they're present. Councillor Kretsch?
I'm here.
Karen Burke?
Present.
Graham Carroll?
Present.
Andrew Douglas?
Present.
Lynn Lundstedt?
Present.
Andy McLaren?
Present.
Stefan Spalnick?
I'm present.
Great, that's perfect. So we'll move on to our approval of the agenda. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented?
I see Graham and Karen.
And before we move to vote, are there any amendments from the committee members today? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under our declarations of interest, do we have any declarations to be declared today? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is our approval of the minutes of our previous meeting. Before us, we have item 5.1, which is our August 22nd, 2025 meeting notes. May I please have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes as presented?
I see Graham and Lynn.
Before we move to vote, is there any discussion on those minutes? No comments or revisions? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Item 6 is our delegations. Before we begin our delegation today, members are reminded that questions of the delegations are for clarification purposes only and not for debate. And a note to our delegates, you have 5 minutes to complete your delegation. So item 6.1, we have Jennifer Croson, respecting item 8.1, report PD 25229, recommendation to designate 30 South Street West in Dundas, known as Osler House, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Ward 13. Welcome, Jennifer. So again, you'll have 5 minutes, and you can begin your delegation whenever you're ready.
She put a message up saying she can't hear.
Jennifer, we've seen your notes, so we're going to see if we can solve anything on our end.
Jennifer, if you could just make sure that you don't have anything plugged into your computer, like headset or anything like that, that would be a first step to just make sure. I guess you can't hear me, but I'll email you. So through the chair, I think what we can do here is we can move up, reorder the agenda so that we consider item 8.2 first. And then after 8.2, we'll see if we can get the delegate on, and then we'll move on to delegations and then move to items for information and then to item 8.1. So we just need a mover and seconder to reorder the agenda. I see Karen and Graham, so just a vote on that. So there's no discussion, just we can go to a vote.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. So we will move to item 8.2, which is PED 25230, a recommendation to designate 880 Center Road, Flamborough Hall, Flamborough under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Ward 15. Kira Cook, Cultural Heritage Planning Technician, is here to give us a presentation. Welcome, Kira.
Hello, my name is Kira Cook, Cultural Heritage Planning Technician, presenting on staff's recommendation to designate the property at 880 Center Road through report PED 25230. Located on the east side of Center Road between Concessions Roads 5 and 6 through the south of the historic settlement area known as Flamborough Center within the community of Flamborough. The property was first surveyed for potential heritage interests in 1882 as part of the former Flamborough Local Architectural Conservatory Advisory Committee inventory work. In 2017, city staff received a public request for designation, and the property was placed on the city's heritage register and the city's work plan. In response to Bill 23, changes to the Ontario Heritage Act of 2023, the property was then prioritized for designation. Here you can see a summary of staff's evaluation, which determined that the property meets 6 of the 9 criteria for designation, which I will now go into more detail on. The property meets 2 design and physical value criteria. The property has design value as a representative example of a vernacular farmhouse influenced by the Gothic Revival style of architecture. The property also displays a high degree of craftsmanship and craftsmanship. Features typical of the Gothic Revival influenced farmhouse include the T-shaped plan with projecting front 2-story gable bay, recessed veranda with decorative wooden columns and curved brackets, roof gables and projecting dormers with decorative bargeboard, segmentically arched and round-headed window openings with stone lug sills, and projecting 3 side bay windows with decorative bargeboards in the side elevations on the first story. Oops, wrong way. Located to the rear of the farmhouse is a large consolidated timber farm barn consisting of 2 barns connected to create an L-shaped footprint. The barn features a gabled roof, vertical wood cladding, and a parched stone foundation. The property also contains a 1-story wood frame dwelling to the north, constructed in the 1940s to house farm employees, and a detached drive shed, which are not considered to have cultural heritage value or interest. The property displays a high degree of craftsmanship as demonstrated by the decorative bargeboard. And the property meets 2 historical associative criteria. The property has historical value for its associations with the locally significant Binkley family and early settlement and agricultural use in East Flamborough Township. John Binkley acquired the property of Lot 7, Concession 5 East in 1829. John Binkley was the son of Marx Binkley. The Binkley family of Protestant German descent immigrated from Pennsylvania to Upper Canada in the 1790s. Between 1795 and his death in 1805, Marx Binkley purchased 800 acres of land in Ancaster Township. John's main residence was in Ancaster Township, and he most likely never lived at the subject property. Prior to John Binkley's death in 1848, he transferred all 200 acres of Lot 7, Concession 5 to his son Abraham Binkley. Abraham is recorded in the assessment records for the subject property at 880 Center Road as early as 1841, and confirmation of his farming activities are found as early as 1851 in the agricultural census of East Flamborough Township. Besides farming, during the 1850s and 60s, Abraham was listed as a tanner and currier and was also involved in local politics, being elected as councillor for Ward 3 of East Flamborough Township in 1854. In 1854, Abraham would sever 10 acres from the subject property, donating it to facilitate the creation of School Section Number 4, a one-room frame schoolhouse was in use at this lot from 1854 to 1927, whereupon it was moved to 254 Concession Road East and converted into a residence, which still stands today. To replace the then removed schoolhouse, a modern two-story brick schoolhouse was constructed in 1927, undergoing at least 3 renovations and acquiring additional land from the subject property in 1954. The school continues to operate today as Flamborough Centre Elementary School at 922 Centre Road. When Abraham passed, the property was registered to his son Peter Binkley in 1865. In 1888, Peter Binkley divided the property in half and sold the southern portion to his nephew, William Griffin, who was the son of his sister. Following the division of the property, Peter Binkley and his family moved out of the original wood frame house on the southern portion of the lot and constructed the current red brick 2-story farmhouse known as Flamborough Hall between 1888 and 1890. The large raised barn on the property was most likely also constructed at this time and was used for dairy and beef cattle. Peter, like his father, was primarily a farmer, though he tried to follow in his father's footsteps and step into civil politics. Peter Binkley ran for the position of Reeve for East Flamborough in 1895. However, he would lose this election. Following the death of Peter Binkley in 1903, the 100-acre farmstead property passed on to his son, Morley Binkley. Morley Binkley would sell the property in 1921 to George A. Buzza and his wife, Isabel. They would continue to run the property as a dairy farm, and so would their son, John Buzza. Sadly, John, who was also a member of the local school board, would pass away in 1952 from a farming accident on site. His wife, Ruth Buzza Nee Weaver, sold the property shortly after her husband's death, but she would continue farming and living on this property with her children and hired hands until the late 1960s. The property has potential to yield information that contributes to an understanding of settlement and development of Flamborough during the 19th and 20th centuries. The property's long-standing agricultural activity for more than 180 years, from the 1830s into the 1960s, offers important insights into agricultural adaptation and rural development. The property meets 2 contextual criteria. The property is important in maintaining the historic character of rural Flamborough. This 2-story Gothic Revival farmhouse and its surviving accessory building reflect a successful and long-standing farming estate that has adapted and survived for more than 180 years. The property is visually, historically, and physically linked to its surroundings. Located in rural East Flamborough, both the farmhouse and barn are in its original location, set facing and visible from Centre Road, maintaining the rural agricultural landscape of this area. The property is historically connected to the neighboring property of Flamborough Centre Elementary School at 922 Centre Road through the Binkley family donation of the land on which the school currently stands. You can see a short summary of the criteria here for your reference, with a full version of the Statement of Cultural Heritage Interest available in Appendix B of the staff report of PED 25230. And here's a summary list of heritage features identified to be included in the designation and will inform the writing of the designation bylaw. A full copy of them can be found in the Appendix B of the staff report. And finally, here's a summary of staff's recommendation to designate the property, which again can be found in report PED 25230. Questions?
Thank you, Kira.
Thank you.
Before we go to questions, I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder to put the report and correspondence on the floor to allow for questions for both the presentation, the report, and the correspondence.
I see Andy and Graham.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the committee? Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you, Kira. That was really great. I just have a question. You list the reconstructed porch as one of the key attributes. If it's reconstructed, does that still count? I mean, it's very similar to the original. But it.
Yeah, through the chair, Alyssa Golden, Cultural Heritage Program Lead. So our team did confirm that it had been reconstructed based on historic documentation to match the original porch. So did feel that it had cultural heritage value or interest, but wanted to be clear that it was a reconstruction and not the original material.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Don't see anyone online. No. So if we have no other questions, we'll move to vote for approval, to approve the recommendations contained within the report. As we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Back to delegations. All right. Hi, Jennifer. Are you able to hear us? And can we hear
Yes.
you? Oh,
Yes,
perfect.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. We can. So welcome and feel free. Again, just a reminder, there's a 5-minute time frame for delegations.
I don't think I will take 5 minutes. So I will start by saying good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak at your meeting. My name is Jennifer Croson, and together with my husband, Jonathan Croson, we purchased 30 South Street West in Dundas in June of 2025. And together with our 3 teenage boys, cat and dog, we moved in here on August 20th, 2025. I want to start by saying we support this heritage designation of this home. It's very clear. Anybody who steps through the front door, I think, can see that this home is special, that it holds many stories. It has many features and a beautiful charm that we really intend and want to preserve. The home has been well loved. When it was run as a bed and breakfast, as some of you may know, prior to its most recent purchase, and then it lay empty for a few years. It's pretty clear that there was an impact of it being empty for a few years, but we're going to slowly work away at restoring and maintaining the beauty of this property, and would appreciate any access to support that the Heritage Committee might be able to provide in order to help us in doing that. We do hope to one day renovate the carriage house, which I understand is also part of this designation, into a dwelling. But would do this in ways that respect its historical character and charm. I, for one, love the fact that it has horse stalls in it, and I don't know if I can ask the City of Hamilton if I can have horses here. I suspect I can't, but there are actually horse stalls in that carriage house, which I think are fantastic. We also understand that the property is being designated, and it's, again, very clear to us that the property is special, in particular the trees on the property, and that cucumber magnolia tree, which is spectacular, nothing short of spectacular. We do have some worries about the health of some of the trees, and so we do wonder about what this designation will mean for us and for those trees. So in closing, I just want to reassure you, we are people who respect history. We wish to keep this house beautiful. We want to tell the stories of this house. We want to reconcile some of the stories of this house, as many, many interesting people lived here, and the house has many, many interesting features. So thank you for your time this afternoon, and sorry for my audio confusion earlier.
Thank you so much for coming to delegate today and for speaking with us. And we really do appreciate the investment that you're putting into that property. Do we have any questions for our delegate?
Comment.
Oh, comment? Go ahead, Griff.
Yeah. Well, thank you for buying the house and taking care of it and loving it as much as your community does. I'm on the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, so if you were to, say, have a sick tree and you need to have it removed, if you're required by the bylaw to come through us, it's merely going to be a formality. We're not the kind of people that are going to say, oh, no, you got to keep that sick tree. We just approved a tree being removed from a heritage district last week. So it's very simple. It may take you an extra couple of weeks, but it's not like it's going to be anything onerous on you.
Thank you for that. And is it all the trees on the property that are being designated? I don't know if I can.
I'll pass it back to the staff.
Through the chair, is it appropriate for us to answer that, or should we deal with that during? Okay.
Okay, so we'll bring that topic back up as part of the discussion. Yeah. Are there any other questions of our delegate? Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation?
I see Graham and Karen.
And as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Again, thank you very much for delegating, and we're going to move on to the report now. But before that, we'll do our items of information. Item 7 is our items of information. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive those items of information? We're looking at item 7.1 to 7.4.
I see Stefan and Karen.
And before we move to vote, is there any discussion on any of those items on that list? Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to just talk really quickly about the, oh crap, no, I can't find it. Sorry, I can't even find it now. So, oh, sorry, the 7.5, the withdrawal, and just to thank staff. That clearly was a lot of work to do to, you know, get them on board and all that type of stuff. So just thank you very, very much for that. That's it.
Through the chair, that item was withdrawn, so it'll come back to a future meeting of Heritage.
Graham, you had a question?
I'm more of a comment. Again, 7.5, I know has been withdrawn, but 7.4 is about that fund. Is it possible to extend that program to the entire city so all residents can take advantage of it? So we don't have to have special council meetings just to look at it? Because it's important. A lot of these beautiful buildings, they can't afford to borrow the money to do it, but thinking a low interest loan, it might make it a lot easier for them.
Through the chair, so the item being discussed is 7.4. Just for the committee's information, it's related to Hamilton Community Heritage Fund loan application, which is currently available citywide for designated properties, Part 4 and 5 across the entire city. Just so I understand, are you asking whether something like that would be available for just any property regardless of its heritage status?
Oh, no. Again, unfortunately, it's been withdrawn, but reading that one about the Troy School, they had to go through a special application to get the money, and it's a one-time thing from the counselor. Like that kind of program is what I'm talking about.
Through the chair, so yeah, the city currently offers, and this might be helpful for other folks who are listening who brought this up as well. The city currently offers 2 heritage grant programs and this heritage loan program. The heritage loan program is citywide for all designated heritage properties. Of the 2 heritage grant programs, one of them is currently geographically limited to certain areas. However, we were directed, staff were directed by council earlier this year to review our heritage funding programs and to look at potentially expanding our grant funding for all of the available programming citywide. So we're currently conducting that review and we'll be reporting back before the end of the year.
Great, thank you.
And is there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Is there anyone opposed to receive these items of information? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under items for consideration, item 8.1 is PED 25229, recommendation to designate 30 South Street West in Dundas, Osler House under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Ward 13. Meg Oldfield, Cultural Heritage Planner, is here to give us a presentation. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Meg Oldfield, Cultural Heritage Planner. Today I'll be presenting staff report PED 25229, which recommends that the property located at 30 South Street West Dundas, also known as the Osler House, be designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. So as you can see, the property is located on the corner of South Street West and Lyons Lane, and the property is comprised of a 2-story brick residence constructed circa 1847. The property was first surveyed for heritage interest in the 1990s. In 2013, the property received the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee Heritage Property Conservation Award following extensive restorations. In December of 2022, City Council affirmed recommendation made by Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee that the property was of sufficient cultural heritage value to warrant designation and directed staff to review the property for designation. So in preparation for this report, staff conducted a site visit to the property in June of 2023 and drafted a statement of cultural heritage value or interest, which is attached as Appendix B to this report. It's been determined that the property meets 6 of the 9 criteria contained in Ontario Regulation 906. So I will now outline the cultural heritage value of the property. The property, as I mentioned, is comprised of a 2-story brick residence that was constructed circa 1847. The property is a representative example of the neoclassical style of architecture. It also displays a high degree of craftsmanship in the form of its Tuscan columns, fascia with triglyphs, modillioned cornice, bracketed eaves, some of which you can see in these photos here. The historical value of the property lies in its direct association with William Miller, the original owner of the property. William Miller worked as a lawyer in Dundas for 18 years before being appointed the first judge of the then newly formed County of Waterloo in 1853, a position he held for 35 years. The property is also associated with Featherstone Lake Ostler, an Anglican clergyman who moved to Dundas with his wife and children in 1857 after being appointed rector of the joint parish of Ancaster and Dundas by Bishop John Strachan. While living in Dundas, Ostler established a night school for boys working in local mills, and among his students was Charles Victor Roman, a doctor and civil rights activist who became the first Black person to graduate from Hamilton Collegiate Institute in 1884. Finally, the property helps define the historic character of South Street West and the community of Dundas, and is historically and visually linked to its surroundings as part of the surviving mid-19th century streetscape, and is sited on its original location, formerly fronting on what is now Ostler Drive, which is named in honor of the Ostler family. Due to its large size, significant tree canopy, and deep setback, the property is considered to be a local landmark. So in summary, 30 South Street West meets 6 of the 9 criteria. The property is a representative example of the neoclassical style of architecture and displays a high degree of craftsmanship. It's associated with 2 prominent early Dundasians, William Miller and Featherstone Lake Ostler, and the property helps define the historic character of South Street West and the community of Dundas, and is visually and historically linked to its surroundings and is considered to be a local landmark. So this is a condensed version of the Statement of Cultural Heritage Value or Interest, the full version of which can be found in Appendix B. So important to the conservation of 30 South Street West is all elevations and roof lines of the 2-story brick building, which includes all the historic elements and decorative details present on these features, including the brick facades, low-hipped roof, covered porch with Tuscan columns and central pediment, and the carriage house. Also important to the conservation of 30 South Street West is its deep setback from South Street West and the mature tree line along all property lines. So staff recommend that the city clerk be directed to give notice of council's intention to designate this property as a property of cultural heritage value under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. With that being said, are there any questions?
Thank you, Meg. Before we go to questions, may I have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor to allow questions on the presentation and the report?
I see Andy and Graham.
Okay. Do we have any questions that we'd like to bring up? I say we do have the discussion about the trees.
Through the chair, again, Alyssa Golden, Culture Heritage Program Lead. In response to the question regarding the scope of contextual heritage attributes proposed to be designated, you'll see in Appendix B, the Statement of Culture Heritage Value or Interest. On the last page, there's reference to the mature tree lines along all 4 property lines, including the cucumber magnolia tree in the north yard. So generally, we would encourage property owners, if this designation goes through, to reach out to staff to confirm if there is a tree that they would be proposing to be removed, to confirm that it is one of those trees within the mature tree lines that would require a heritage permit or not. As one of our members mentioned earlier during the delegation, generally for sick trees, diseased trees that have been determined by an arborist needing to come down due to safety concerns, it's a relatively straightforward process. If there was an immediate safety concern, we would encourage the tree removal to take place and then get retroactive heritage permit approval if there was an immediate concern. But generally, it is a relatively straightforward process when the issue is diseased or safety. If there were trees proposed to be removed as a part of another type of development on the site, that would obviously be a different consideration, and we'd look at impacts, how to mitigate or potentially minimize that when considering an application like that.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Graham, go ahead.
So did that help you?
If you're asking me, yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. And as Alyssa said, we've had a heritage building here in Hamilton that needed work done and trees removed, the Akamar House, where again, it was easily passed and done. Because we're realists, we know what has to be done. So don't be afraid about your trees.
I mean, I know maybe I shouldn't be speaking now. I don't know if I should come through the chair, but my hope is actually to help these trees if we can. That's my first step.
Very good. Do we have any other questions or comments in regards to the report before us? If there's no other, then we'll move to receive the presentation and approve the recommendations contained within the report. As we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. We're now going to move on to item 11, and I'm going to pass the item over to Graham. Turn up chair.
Okay, so item 11, journal information, other business, is going to be the 11.1 Municipal Heritage Committee Fall Forum. And Alyssa's going to provide an update.
Just a quick update to our members of the committee and to the staff. November 1st, there's going to be a Heritage Fall Forum. We've actually had the opportunity to work. We were invited by the chair of Heritage Burlington to start to formulate an event that people could get together. A lot of times the Municipal Heritage Committee members don't get a chance to get some extra education and to have some discussion and have some opportunities to have some networking. So this is an opportunity to learn a little bit about heritage in Burlington and Hamilton, but it's also being opened up to all members of municipal heritage committees across the province. So if you haven't already done so, the invitation was sent out to our members. Please make sure you RSVP for that event if you're able to join. It's a virtual event, but they do have some great speakers. Again, just a morning session. Hopefully this will be a precursor to future events, but it's shaping up to be a very good event. Again, November 1st from 9 till 12. So again, if you haven't already RSVP'd, please do so if you can attend.
Thank you, Alyssa. Does anyone have any questions or not, as we have to receive it first, don't worry.
Just questions first.
Okay, anyone have any questions about this? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Oh, sorry.
Thank
Now
you.
your hand's up.
Through the chair, I have this question that came up at some point around attendance of quorum numbers at an event. So does that mean that if we had quorum at this, how would that play out?
Through the chair, I don't think it'd be an issue because it is a virtual event, so you'll all be attending separately. However, if it were to, for example, if it was held in person, you're all attending, and that there's the opportunity to advance committee business, so that could be considered an official meeting if
Okay.
quorum was present.
So gathering virtually is acceptable, but not in person.
But
Is that it?
this is also an education opportunity. So it's not a meeting. We're not dealing with items that we're discussing and that we're.
And just through the chair, an educational meeting could still be considered an official meeting. However, what this will be members attending individually, and there's an opportunity to discuss what you've learned at that meeting, at that forum, at a future heritage meeting.
Okay. So so what you're saying is it can be acceptable at some points to have all of us at the same event, so long as we don't discuss committee business. Okay, thank you.
And we're not gathering in one place.
Yeah, and through the chair, we'd have to consider the logistics of the event to provide that advice.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, got a mover and a seconder?
Perfect, thank you. I see Councillor Crutch and Karen.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries and back over.
Thank you, Graham. We now move on to item 11.2 is our heritage buildings and landscape watch list. Before we move forward in that, is there anyone that would like to add a property to the list? Okay, question for Lynn, just from our virtual members, any additions, any requests to subtract, to remove? So reports, okay, so we'll take Lynn's question and then we have Graham with an update. Do we have any other updates?
For the questions, actually.
Oh, question, oh, your questions too, okay. And updates from you as well, Councillor Kretsch? So go ahead, Lynn.
Sorry, Alyssa, through the chair, it has nothing to do with this, actually. I was just going back to the presentation when we switched the order for PED 25230 about 880 Center Road. There was also a letter that was attached to that. Should we have discussed that letter?
Through the chair was put on the floor at the time that we discussed the report. So it was received as part of that item.
Okay, sorry.
Graham next, and then I have Councillor Kretsch and then Karen.
Okay, the first is a possible removal. I don't know how everyone feels about it. The Hamilton Press Brick Company, which we have zero control over because of its location. Should we keep it on the list or just ignore it now?
Through the chair, possibly, I believe it was originally added because there was an ongoing discussion about the future of that site, and there was some dialogue around potential access to that site. It is currently on the register. This is 175 Lawrence Road. So it would be up to the committee's discretion if it's not something that you want to be tracking any longer and have on the watch list.
I think they've already removed what they're going to remove. They're using the property for storage. None of the buildings are really in danger, but it can never become anything else because of its location. There's no access to it except for the people who own that property. So we can't visit the buildings. No one can ever get there. We can never put an interpretive center there. I'm just kind of wondering if we should just take it off the list because there is zero control. There's nothing we can really do with it.
Go ahead, Ken.
Through the chair, Ken Coit, Director, Heritage and Urban Design. There was a motion put forward by Councillor Nan to work with Landscape Architectural Services to look at the long-term future of that property, which could include trail connections down to it from the rail trail. But that's the degree of study that we're looking at it from. It still remains with the current owner.
Okay, and with learning about the possibility of a trail connection, I'll leave it on my watch list then withdraw that comment. And the other one is 84 to 86, I think, James Street North on the southeast corner. The business is closed up a long time ago. The building's starting to look pretty decrepit. Wonder if we should start putting an eye on that. It hasn't been used for the last, 5 years, I think, across from City Center.
Through the chair, so I believe these properties, if I'm not mistaken, are on the Municipal Heritage Register currently. Yes, it does appear as though the ground floor is not occupied. I'm not aware of the situation of the upper floors, if there's residential units in there or not, but yeah, if the committee would like to add that to the watch list, that would be up to your discretion.
So we'll ask Councillor Kretsch, would you add that to your listing as in Ward 2?
Sure thing.
Okay,
Happy.
thank you.
Just for Matt.
So yellow.
For yellow, could you also just reconfirm the addresses?
No, I unfortunately wrote it down wrong because I got 84 to 84, so if anything is 84 to 86.
Street.
James Street North?
James Street North.
South.
So, sorry, no, it's north. I don't know why I said south. It's north.
It's north.
Yes.
Okay. And a seconder? Karen, thank you.
So we have a mover and a seconder. We'll move to vote. Is there anyone opposed to adding this property to the list? Seeing none, that item is carried. So that's all for your list?
Yeah, I got reports.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Well, yeah.
As we know, the Hamilton Hospital property got demolition permits to take down the extra buildings. So last I went by, all of them were down except for part of the powerhouse was still up. But in that inspection, we found that a lot of the trees were being clear cut, an absolute mess. I never realized when we did the permit that we even talked about trees. It's unreal how many trees have been removed off that property. Some of them were mentioned when we were discussing getting the new bylaw in place because of the parkland of the site. And some of these trees that are missing are from that era. And that really hurts. It's not the first time we've had a problem with trees on that site. When St. Joe's built theirs, it was like a forestry operation. How many chestnuts and other large trees were taken down? But if we keep losing trees on the Hamilton Mountain, the air quality is going to start being affected terribly. And these are ancient trees. They're not like they're just been planted a couple of years ago. Some of these trees are over 100 years old. And we've got to find a way to control this in the future to make sure we don't lose more. But on the plus side, Inwell is getting along on their plans on converting Century Manor into a supportive housing site, which is really good news. St. Giles, no break-ins, just a little bit of litter on the property. So they're doing a pretty good job of that lately. Along in Bisbee, one window has been kicked in. In fact, they mentioned that during the week. The property's looking pretty unkempt. They're not cutting the grass, cutting back the weeds. Getting harder and harder to keep an eye on it from the road. So it'd be nice if they could clean their property up. Been too long. That's everything for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Graham. Councillor Crutch, you had some updates?
Yes, and my apologies. I'll probably be asking Alyssa for a bit of information just in terms of confirming where things stand. But I know I raised a bunch of issues previously at the last meeting I attended, and then Alyssa sent me some information, so I wanted to share that. And so if it's already been shared, I'll be brief. So just 80 to 92 Barton Street East, there was a lot of concerns about the windows there that were raised in the community in terms of them being boarded up, and they are boarded up now, and the order there to comply has been closed. At Cannon Street, at 134 Cannon Street East, that's a Cannon Knitting Mills. A lot has happened actually. So they've determined that some of the structure there is not safe. An engineer's been called in to do some work. The owner's being asked to do some work to secure it, and fencing's been put up around the property. And so right now, there's quite a bit of negotiation happening with neighbors who park behind there. So there's a lot of neighbors who live what I call on the park, and they have their access to parking behind the park, which is close to the knitting mill. So it's causing some consternation, but I know the owner has been in communication with them and that's proceeding. That's good. We wanted to deal with the issue of it being a fire hazard, and I think we're finally making some progress toward doing that. So thanks very much for that happening. 54 Hess Street stuff. There was some conversation about this as well, and just wanted to confirm with staff about the different orders that are there. I heard from the owner who thought that they'd already complied with some past orders, and so why were there new orders? And I explained that, well, these new orders are about different things. Thank you for complying with the past orders, but there are new ones and you have to comply with those. So they are in the process of doing so, I believe. And finally, 98 James Street South, which is the James Street Baptist Church property. I just want to say that I think all the weeds and grading and those kinds of things that are meant to be done are almost finished being done. I'm right now looking to see if there can be some way to get access to the structure at some point. I've had the opportunity to sort of tour some other heritage structures in Ward 2 and get a sense. And frankly, it's educational to do so to some extent for me as well, to understand what's going on in these spaces and where they're at. But right now they say it's not really safe to be doing so entirely. They want to make sure they've done a couple things inside first. They've just made sure that everything is structurally sound with the bracing, but they want to continue to make sure that everything is 100% safe and that they're not having a lot of traffic in and out. So they're going to wait until a little while, and then they're going to let me in to have a gander. So I'll report back what I learned from that experience, and if I can invite other people in the committee along to join me, I certainly will. It's not a liability risk at this point. Just to let you know, it's just that they're being cautious and they want to keep a minimum foot traffic in there. Those are my updates. And if Alyssa, if you have anything to add about any of those 4 properties that is new information I don't have. Grateful for you to share it with the committee.
Thanks. Through the chair, I think that was a very well comprehensive summary. I'm not sure, Ken, if there's anything.
Through the chair, Ken Coit, Director of Heritage and Urban Design. I can report that on the James South property, the developer has reactivated their site plan and it's in for review to keep going with that development.
That's really wonderful news. Thank you so much. And by the way, Alyssa gets all the credit for everything I said because mostly she sent me an email and it contained those updates. And so I was just reading them out. So thanks, Alyssa.
Thank you for those updates. Graham, go ahead.
I do have a question about the Tivoli. One of your properties, Councillor Crutch?
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer it. Sure, go ahead. Staff probably have a better answer than me, but go for it.
Well, we know as like they've started the demolition process. Has any of the artifacts that we identified been removed, like the statues and that kind of stuff that they had concerns of? So a lot of people are asking me because obviously of the CH program.
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, as folks recall, the conditions of heritage permit approval were that additional information in terms of the feasibility of trying to actually salvage specific plaster features like the statues from the building prior to demolition, that come back through staff. We did receive documentation from their environmental consultant in terms of the level of contamination of those structures, as well as concerns about the structural stability of the building to be in there for long periods of time, to be trying to remove those features. And ultimately, we did provide clearance to allow to proceed with demolition without trying to remove them due to the safety concerns. Also recognizing that we do have the 3D scan and LiDAR that does have the documented proportions of all of those materials that we'll be looking for. We have received the securities as well as one of the other conditions prior to demolition in terms of them implementing the interpretation and commemoration measures in the new development. So that provides us that level of assurance that those measures will be implemented as a part of their future Planning Act application process for redevelopment. We did not. Do we have any other further questions in regards to that? And then go to Karen.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have 2 updates. So the first one is 2 Hat Street in Dundas, which is, it is designated at this point, correct? Yeah, so I think we need to update the list to put a D as opposed to an R there. So that one is, all the windows are boarded up as had been done before. In the past month, there's been a lot of graffiti. Sorry? You can if you want, if you have them. I provided a few photos just to show. So this is just in the past month this has happened. So there's on some glass, there's some on the wall at the end there. I mean, so it's unfortunate. There's also a lot of debris on the ground too, which I didn't photograph, but so hopefully this doesn't carry on. Hopefully it's dealt with in some way. So that's my one negative update. On the positive side, if we go to the bottom of the list, which is, well, close to the bottom, under Part C, the green properties, 104 King Street West, the former post office, there's a number of tenants in that building, and it's a really good example, I think, of adaptive reuse. I think it's great. Just wanted to say that one of the tenants, Barrel Heart Brewing, which just opened in January, has just received an acknowledgement, a recognition from the Michelin Guide, which is great. And they've got, it's called a Bib Gourmand, so it's not a star, but it's also a very positive acknowledgement, and for a brand new place, that's lovely, and great that they're using a heritage building for it. And they actually have a patio outside too, so that's some really good news, I think. And it's a lovely building, and it's always been kept up really well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Today's list is a roller coaster ride. Any other updates or questions, comments in regards to our properties? If there's no other updates, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the updates?
I see Graham and Lynn.
And as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed to receiving? Seeing none, that item is carried. Do we have any updates from staff today? No updates. Do we have any other new business for our committee? If there's no other business for discussion, we'll move to adjourn, and we officially adjourn at 12:50. So our next meeting will be on October 24th, 2025 at 12 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.